fellowship in Bundaberg in Australia. So my parents came along before I was born, and I got baptized and spirit-filled when I was maybe 11 or 12. I was pretty young at the time, and well, not super young, but so I kind of it was just quite normal to be around speaking in tongues and baptism. We'd grown up with it, so there was nothing abnormal about it. So it was just kind of a natural process for that to happen. But I didn't have a very strong spiritual walk when I grew up. So eventually I left the fellowship and left God, stopped coming to meetings and stopped doing anything that was good for me when I was about 18 or 19. I started drinking and partying, taking drugs, all that kind of stuff, smoking. And so that went on for a number of years. It was about 8 years all up when everything, this is a very short version and the quick version, everything kind of came to a head 8 years later. I was living with drug dealers in Brisbane. I was addicted to drugs. I was very, very depressed. I was going to Narcotics Anonymous meetings to try and deal with my drug habits, but nothing helped because I had to go to a meeting every day to stay sober. So I was struggling a lot. And yeah, at the beginning, I think it was about 5 years ago, my friend committed suicide from depression, and that made me suicidal. I was already in a bad place with everything, and just woke up one day and I was very depressed and very messed up in my head at the time, and I just didn't want to die, but I just didn't want to live anymore, really. So after that kind of situation, in the middle of all of that, I was very messed up, and I just called my dad, which was a big thing. He was still in the fellowship in North London at the time. He prayed in tongues over the phone for me. I don't even really remember the phone call, but my sisters came up and moved me out of the house that day and took me about an hour away to where my other sister was living. And from that day, I got healed of my drug addiction. It was just, like the next day I woke up and I just didn't even think about it. I got to the end of the day, I realized that it had been all day. I hadn't even thought about it. And I was just it was worlds apart from where I was. And my parents brought me over to England at that point. And and I started coming back to fellowship then. My depression left me took about a month before my depression was fully gone, but that was still is much quicker than if you look into any kind of depression medication that any doctor will subscribe to you. And that was just the beginning. I had a bit of doubt when I first came back to fellowship of what speaking in tongues was, and did I make it up when I was younger? And so I was still a bit in two minds at that point. But at this, I just went to an Irish camp, and the first night I just had some real prayer just to get something out of it. And my tongue, it didn't exactly change from what it was when I grew up, but it was like it was extended on. That was a real confirmation for me. And that's when it really started for me, my walk with God. That's when I knew, okay, well, this is real. I can't deny this anymore. Everything that had happened up until that point was true. And I'll try to keep it short, but I've had so many blessings and miracles in my life. I got a blessing of protection from a massive 70-kilo steel plate that we work with, these big steel plate molds at work. And it was just a mistake from someone else. They had it on this pulley system and they let it go, and it started coming down. I had my back towards it, and it started coming down this kind of rail towards me, and just took a step to the left for no reason, and this big plate smashed into where I was standing. The dent is still there in the steel from where I was standing, which was, if it had hit me, that just would have been horrible. It was a real blessing of protection. I also injured my wrist at work maybe 1 or 2 years ago, and it really bothered me for a very long time. It was like I had something inside my wrist, like a piece of bone floating around or something. And that was, yeah, to the point that I was complaining nearly every day about it. It was very painful. And one day I just woke up and I thought, I just had this thought in my head that I was going to get healed that day. Don't know why, but I went to work, I started praying, and I prayed for about 3 hours, I think, until I got this healing. And it just got to this point that, I tried everything. I tried speaking in tongues. I tried praying and the understanding. Man, if there was a way to pray, I was doing it. 3 hours in, still no healing. And I just had to do this kind of movement at work that was very normal. And this pain again just shot through my arm, from my wrist up my arm. And I just cried out to God in that point. And from that point, I was just instantly healed. We've been blessed with a house here. I moved to the Netherlands with my wife. That was been a real blessing that we've got a house here. Many first homeowners find it very difficult to find a house. And the fact that I've only got a 5-year visa. I'm not even a permanent resident here. Overall, the whole process went really well, and we're really blessed with what we've got now. We moved to London a few years ago. That was very blessed, just having a house there and going through work there as well. Work here. I'm sure I've missed so many things, and it's hard trying to squeeze it into a couple of minutes. But yeah, I really just praise God for where I am. It's been a really remarkable kind of turnaround for me, and to be able to kind of keep growing and meeting new people and being able to share that and speak with people about, what's happened to me as well has been really amazing. So I just praise God for everything He's done.